New Thought Media Network and the Universal Joy Center are proud to bring you The Joy Show. One voice, one story, infinite inspiration. Join your host Barbara Jean every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time or 1 p.m. Mountain Time. Tune in live or watch anytime on youtube.com/@UJOYC. The Joy Show with Barbara Jean. The perfect way to get inspired on Friday afternoons. Only on New Thought Media Network. And please like, share, and subscribe. And now, let's join Barbara Jean on The Joy Show.
Good afternoon and welcome to The Joy Show. Joy being an acronym for just one you and all those unique stories that come along with you. Oh, well, I'm so glad you're here and we have a fabulous guest today. But before we go into that, let us begin with our land acknowledgement. We work, live, and play on the historical and traditional territory of many First Nations. And as we gather on Turtle Island, we as settlers are grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years, including the Métis, Inuit, and all other Indigenous peoples. Also acknowledging that as we continue to grow and expand on these lands, there is still some unresolved and dangerous inequality and discrimination. So by making these acknowledgements, we strive to be allies and take an active part in reconciliation. We recognize our oneness, we realize our history, and we choose to create a new reality. Well, I'm so delighted today. My guest is Valerie Hill. And wow, what a woman she is. She's been doing all kinds of work, a 21-year career as an arts and lifestyle reporter. She is a journalist. She continues to write lifetimes for the Record and to date has written more than 1,000 of the weekly obituary features. In 2020, Valerie received a writer's grant from the Waterloo Region Arts Fund to complete the biography of Afghani human rights lawyer Wazhma Frogh. Wazhma lives in Kitchener with her daughter and is devoted to help the women and girls in her home country since the Taliban takeover. Well, and she's done so much more. Welcome, Valerie.
Thank you.
Well, I'm so delighted that you're here. And hearing about your background. So there's two things that stand out for me. One is your work in Africa and your work with, helping the children there. And the other is I was just taking a look at the fact that you are writing these lifestyle features on obituaries.
Mm-hmm.
I find that interesting. I do a lot of memorial services or celebrations of life, and there's something about telling the story and hearing the stories and sharing the stories that make those events so powerful. Tell me, what got you interested in that area? And
well, what got me started on that was my editor saying you have to do it. Oh, all right.
Editors do that.
Yeah, they do. And then every once in a while, the reporter will say, oh, actually, I like doing this. Yeah, so that was in 2000, and it was our editor-in-chief that came up with the idea. And no newspaper in Canada at that point had a designated reporter writing obituary features.
Right.
Globe and Mail has one called Life and Times, but it's all submitted by the public. So the record was unique. It's the Waterloo Region Record for anybody who doesn't know. So they were unique in that. And once I started writing them, because I've always been interested in people and people's lives.
Yeah.
My friends do say that I'm a bit of a pain to take anywhere because I immediately start asking all kinds of personal questions of anybody I meet. But I'm genuinely interested. I want to know all about them. So Lifetimes is challenging in that the person is dead.
Mm-hmm.
So it's getting the information from everybody around them, their friends, their family, whatever's in the archives, and then cobbling it all together into squeezing an entire lifetime into 800 word slot, which isn't easy.
No, it wouldn't be.
And then after I retired as a full-time reporter, oh, there's the record. Yep, there's that's this one that just ran this week. It runs every Tuesday. And there's kind of a funny story about that guy. So he was very much into the music business here in Waterloo Region. And so whenever I'm going to write a Lifetimes, I always ask my editor to send me any stories about that person from the archives. And it usually gives me some interesting background. And there was a story about him, all right, in the record that a number of years ago, he was charged with trafficking cocaine. Oh no, what am I going to do with that? So that's the tricky part. I mean, I don't want to pretend it didn't happen, because it did, and it's an interesting aspect of his life.
It is.
I was just, talking about all the good things about him, and then said, but, obviously he wasn't an angel, because he did have this little trafficking problem. But his friends had told me the reason he was trafficked, he really wasn't trafficking. He bought quite a large amount of cocaine to give his little presents, Christmas presents, to all his friends and clients. Then, well, I'm not putting that in, because that doesn't make it sound any better.
No, it makes you wonder who his friends and clients are.
People in the music business. He was a producer and a music and a concert promoter. So, so when I retired in 2019 as a full-time reporter, the Record asked me if I'd continue writing Lifetimes. So I have been. So so it's well over 1,000 now.
That's remarkable. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things you find out about people that you never, ever suspected.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that I find most interesting. And I think sometimes, and I don't know if you find this, but as I've gotten older, I find sometimes people almost pass you by without regard. It's like they don't really notice you as much as they did maybe when you were 25, or like there just seems to be.
I hear women say that all the time. I don't find that at all. Not at all. No. And I don't know if it's just something that is inner, and it just, people notice me all the time, whether I want them to or not. Yeah. I'm not really, I'm about 5'7", so I'm not extraordinarily tall, or, there's nothing that really stands out, but no, I don't find that in the least.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. I love that. I haven't found it as much as some of my friends, because I'm dyeing my hair. Well, my hair's still brown anyway. I'm not sure why, but other than right over here.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes there's different things, whether it's being a woman or being a little bit older, or even being young, that we get dismissed at different times by different people for different reasons. So now you studied journalism. Where did you study?
I didn't. No, I'm just one of those people that I just sort of naturally fell into the business, and I was trained on the job. And I was always one of the very few journalists in the newsroom that did not have a journalism degree.
Isn't
that doesn't happen anymore? Most of the young journalists now, they have a minimum of an undergrad degree. A lot of them have master's degrees. So, yeah.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah. Well, I'm not very good in school. I'm a little ADD. So, I can concentrate for about 10 minutes. Then I'm looking at the squirrels and the birds out the window. So,
Squirrel.
That's right. Yeah.
I have a window right in front of me here. So if I look up, I will see squirrels.
Yeah. Nice.
I think that's interesting. I studied journalism in college. I might have mentioned that in the other show. And the thing that I have found a little bit that bugs me a bit about journalism today is the what if. Well, what if never happens? Why are we talking about it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So that part, because if I'd ever done that, 30 years ago or 40 years ago, when I was in journalism school, I would have got a big flat out 0.
Yeah. It's not our job to speculate, right?
No,
That's not our job.
No, not at all. And yet it seems like the news these days is more speculation than anything else, depending on the news, where you're getting it from. And I always find it's kind of a good idea to get it from, different sources,
Yeah.
BBC and CBC and
Yeah, legitimate sources. Yeah.
yeah, so that you've got just some different places. I worked for the Calgary Herald for years,
Mhm.
not as a journalist. I worked there prior to going to college. I worked in their advertising department, but
Mm.
I think the newspaper industry is probably struggling a lot more today than it was.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unbelievable to me that how it has changed just in the 21 years that I was there.
Yeah.
From having a huge newsroom with all kinds of reporters and photographers and support staff down to a few people working from their home and still being able to put out a daily newspaper, which is really quite remarkable.
It is remarkable,
Yeah.
actually. It
Yeah.
really is. It really is.
Mhm.
Well, another interesting thing about you is your time in Africa,
Yeah.
Uganda specifically. So
And
can
that,
you tell us a little bit about how you
sure.
got there?
That started actually because when it came to long weekends, our editor always let us volunteer. If you want to work a long weekend, you can. The dog is pestering me here. Stay down. And it was a long weekend. I think it was a family day weekend. And so I volunteered to work. And one of my assignments was to interview the guy, Michael von Tieckman, who owned the Walper Hotel downtown Kitchener. And he had hooked up with an organization that no longer exists in Kitchener, in Waterloo. And they were building a school in Uganda. So he was donating money from every room. I think $1 for every room that was rented in his hotel. He donated it to the school, which is called the Walper School.
Yeah.
Anyway, when he was telling me about it, I think, well, this sounds really neat. It sounds like something I'd like to go see. So I raised my first fundraiser. I raised $8,000 because I didn't know I couldn't raise $8,000. So I did. And I went, because money was supposed to go to the school. So I paid my own way there. I was only able to go for 2 weeks. That's all the holidays I had left. And I was just totally mesmerized by the place, by the kids. And then I met on my last day there. They were touring me around and showing me where the school was going to go. And it was just a field with a big anthill in the middle. Though there wasn't much to look at, but I started getting a real sense of the people and, their lifestyle and just how wonderful they were and how resilient. So my last day, and I was really sick with a cold, and they had I went to visit a high school just outside of Kampala. And the school had hired a paparazzi, as I called him, to follow me around, and I'm blowing my nose and I'm sick. And he said, oh my gosh, it was awful. But anyway, I went into the big hall and their students there that were performers put on a performance for me, drumming and singing and dancing. And that was it. I was done for. It was, okay, I belong to you now. And there was one girl in particular. She was only 13, 14 at the time. And I just couldn't take my eyes off her. I thought, that's my daughter. And she still is today. She's in her 20s now. Yeah, I still support her. So I went back to Canada and I said to my friends, we've got to bring these kids here and let them perform and raise money for the school. And we all thought, sure, how hard could it be? I mean, these kids didn't even have a passport. They didn't have a birth certificate. We had to pay money for them to get on a bus and go back to their home community and get an elder to sign a document to say, yes, this child was born here. Of course, they had no idea when they were born. So they all chose January the 1st. So they all had January 1st birthdays. So we got the passports, we got the birth certificates and the passports and the visas. Then we raised the money to bring them here, and they toured around in this part of Ontario, around Waterloo Region and they were in Toronto too, for a couple of weeks performing and raising money. And then we brought them back a few years later. But we were also part of a documentary film about the high school and the group. And that was showcased. That was the leading film at the Grand River Film Festival in 2015. And we brought the kids for that. And it was just, it was incredible. I had them all stand behind the curtain. And nobody knew they were there. And so the film was being screened on the big screen hanging down in front of the curtains. And then at the end, I had the kids start drumming. So everybody in the audience says, what's that? And then the screen went up and the curtains opened and the kids were all there and everybody started to cry, including me. It was absolutely fantastic.
Oh, you're making me a little bit teary here.
No, you can't help but get teary. The minute I get to their school, I start crying because it's just so emotional. Yes,
there is something about Africa that is indescribable.
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
It takes a piece of your heart as soon
yeah.
as you land there, it seems.
Mhm.
I got sick. I can't remember if I mentioned that when we had talked
Mm.
before, but I got pneumonia when I
Mm,
was there.
mm,
So I spent 4 days out and about, doing stuff with everybody. Then I got really sick and spent the rest of my time there in my room in the hotel.
mm,
But what was cool was the woman at the front desk. Her name was Charity. She's
mhm,
well named. She gave me her phone number, her cell number, so I could WhatsApp her if I needed anything.
mhm.
And she would come by my room and check on me because I couldn't even walk. I couldn't walk from my room to the front desk. I just had zero breath. And so she would come and help. The woman who was doing my room, her name was Linda. She was fantastic. She would sit and chat with me a little bit and bring me water, anything I needed. And then the taxi drivers who took us from the airport actually stopped by and they said, "We're going to take you for a drive. Come on, you need to at least get out for a few minutes." So they took me for a drive and took me to a mall so I could get some juice and
Mhm.
something I could keep down because I couldn't eat anything.
Yeah.
And but the people, like those four people in particular, went above and beyond and helped me every single day for those 10 days
Mhm.
that I was stuck in that hotel room. And it was, they're remarkably generous, resilient, kind. They were really happy.
Mhm.
Um, it was beautiful. I can't wait to go back.
Yeah. Well, they
Yeah.
have a different way of thinking. They think in terms of community. Now, as I mentioned, I'm dog sitting right now in Elora, and
Mhm.
I'm in a fairly new community, subdivision, beautiful big homes, completely empty. I walk the dog a couple of times a day. There's nobody around. I think, where is everybody? All these houses, there's lots of people here. But even on the weekend, you don't really see that many people around, few kids playing in the street. And that's a big
Yeah.
difference between here and Uganda. And in Uganda, you'd never, well, I mean, most of the time people are living in huts, so they don't really want to be inside. And it's warm all the time, so they can be out. And there's just
Yeah.
life that goes on 24/7. The market runs
Yeah.
24/7, it never stops. And they do have to help each other because they have nothing else. They can't rely on the government or anything local.
No,
They
no, they
only have each other.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that I think
Mhm.
that's probably something that we could really, use a really good dose of is community. Figuring out
Absolutely.
how they
Yeah.
do that because
Yeah.
we don't. And even with my spiritual center, I'm finding, we're online still and we're looking for a place to hold Sundays, but there is a reluctance for people to leave their homes and their little computers and actually come out.
Mhm.
And I'm
Mhm.
like, you need to get out of your house. It's
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, how our houses are too comfortable. That's the problem. Maybe we all need to have spiky beds to sleep on and spiky chairs to sit on, so we're not so no freaking comfortable all the time.
something without central air or central heat,
Yeah,
and
that's right.
we'd be outside more for
That's
sure.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
so what has your interest now? Like what do you want to be doing? You've retired from reporting. You're still doing the lifestyle section there, the
Just the
life
lifetimes. Yeah, just the
lifetime.
lifetimes. That's the only one I do for the record. But,
Yeah.
yeah, I have a number of other editing projects. There's a young man who I'm helping him write his memoirs, and he was
Ah,
actually a guy that I had interviewed for a Lifetimes a few years ago, and when he started telling me his background, that he grew up mostly in an orphanage and he was a real troublemaker and turned his life around, and now he's a professor of archaeology at University of Victoria. Anyway, he was telling me as his story, and I said, "You've got to write your memoirs." And that was like 5 years ago. And then he contacted me a few months ago and he said, remember me? Remember you said I should write my memoirs? Well, I think I will. And I need your help. So so he's started writing already. So I'll be helping him with that. And I'm writing the foreword. And then there's the Afghani human rights lawyer as well.
Yes.
Wazhma. But it's been difficult getting together with her. First of all, it was COVID when it started. And then she just got so caught up in her job and her charity in Afghanistan, because most of her employees were women. So in one fell swoop, she lost all her employees. And she had to do, and then she, she's of course very concerned about the girls and women there. So, so I've got maybe about a quarter of the book done. So, but these things take a long time,
They do.
Yeah.
They definitely don't happen overnight. I've been writing my story for a while, and I'll be writing it for a while yet, I'm sure.
I also love to write a book about my experiences in Uganda, because some of them have been just so funny, I mean, I was also bitten by a venomous snake when I was there, and that was interesting.
Oh my.
Yeah. I didn't even know what had happened. I was standing in long grass and I felt bang on my ankle, and I looked down and I saw my leg was bleeding. Never occurred to me I was bitten by a snake. Gosh.
Oh my goodness.
I started feeling really ill, and then my leg swelled up and turned purple.
That'd be a little scary.
Yeah, well, fortunately, it was one of the snakes that has the venom isn't as powerful. But, when I came home and told my son, of course, he upped the story and he's telling everybody, my mom was bitten by a black mamba. No, I wasn't. Isn't the story exciting enough without you exaggerating?
Isn't it funny how we tend to do that sometimes?
Yeah, he's a grown-up guy. I don't know why he's doing that anyway. Yeah. So.
Well, even as grown-ups, we want to make it really juicy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Maybe that's why some of the journalists today are doing the what ifs. Because
you really don't know. That's right. You really don't know what's going to happen. Right? So we pulled we're not supporting the high school anymore. That relationship kind of fell apart, unfortunately, just because there in Uganda, a lot of the schools are privately owned. And we were not happy with the people that owned the school and what they were expecting and what they were doing with the funds we were giving them. So we switched over to it's a junior school, an elementary school level, and it's in a small community and it's owned by the community. So we really like that. And they had started out with a class in a cattle stall. They kicked the cows out during the day. The kids would come in, and then at night it would reverse. So we started supporting them because we just love the people there, and the fact that it was owned and run by the locals, by the moms and the dads and the grandmas and the grandpas, so they've really got a lot of skin in the game. And we've done a lot of work there. We've built many classrooms, dormitories, put in new lavatories, put in a water catchment system, a sewing room, solar. Yeah. And we've done all that on very little money. It really doesn't take much. But now their next big project is they want to build a high school in the same community. In Uganda, elementary school is free. It's run by the government, but the schools that are run by the government are extremely poor quality. And there might be one teacher and 50 kids, and no books, no resources whatsoever. So that's why people will start their own schools. But the high school will be based on the same model as the elementary school, and it'll be in the same community because there really isn't one within walking distance for the kids. Because they would graduate from the equivalent to grade 8, and then they would have nowhere to go. So, but there's been a lot of learning, obviously lots of learning experiences. And one that really stuck out to me was here, if you have a couple with a child, and you're trying to convince the parents to, especially the father, if it's sort of that kind of family where father's dominant, that he should let his daughter learn because it's really good for her. She's going to grow. That's not the way it works there. the father doesn't care about that. You have to convince the father that by that daughter getting a good education, she's going to be able to contribute to the family coffers. And that's the big difference there in the way of thinking. But that was another example of how we have to go in there and ask, and don't assume we know, because the only thing you can assume you know is nothing. We know nothing, right?
That's sort of a good thing to assume when we go into any classroom, I think.
Yeah.
Assume I know nothing and maybe I'll learn something.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we did a thing with them too about, I had a teacher that had come as a volunteer once, and she taught sex ed here. And that was really interesting because she was young and she could really communicate and connect with the kids. So she had little pieces of paper and she handed them all out, and she asked because she figured that they wouldn't be, they'd be too shy to actually talk to her and ask her a question in front of the other class. So she just had them write it all out, put it in a basket, and then she drew one at a time, and she was answering the questions. So there's another. Canadian kids wouldn't think twice about asking a question and being the smart ass, but the Ugandan kids wouldn't do that.
No,
well, there's smart asses there, but they're kind of rare. And then we had a couple of the teachers talk to the teachers there about the use of condoms. The topic, of course, was AIDS and the number of children everybody has. That was also really enlightening because, I think from a Western perspective, we think, well, we can just go there and tell them that all they need to do is wear a condom or they can go on birth control. No. Well, first of all, ask yourself, why aren't they using condoms? They know that they're there. They know what they're for. Why wouldn't they use them? Find out why. And the reasoning was it's a whole macho thing. The men just don't want to. They think it, depletes from their manhood. So then you have to figure out, well, how do you get around that? So, yeah.
Yeah, there's so many things to navigate when you enter another culture. You have to really pay attention. Well, we're at our halfway point, so we're going to take a short little commercial break, and then we'll be right back. You're watching The Joy Show here on the New Thought Media Network, and my wonderful guest, Valerie Hill, and we will be back in just a minute, so don't go away because lots more to come.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
New Thought Media Network proudly presents It's All Love, Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Mountain Time, 6 p.m. Eastern, with Laura Mock as the presence of love, Maria Hartman, knowing truth, Wendy Wilson as the quality of presence, and Lara Brzezinski as the essence of joy. It's all love. A space where we open into the heart, tap into the soul's deep wisdom, and enter into the energy of love, truth, presence, and joy. It's all love, Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Mountain Time, 6 p.m. Eastern.
And we're back. So we've been talking about schools in Uganda, and we've been talking about journalism and this and that and the other thing. And so what else can we talk about? You have a dog.
No, I'm dog sitting.
Oh, your dog.
Yeah, this is another. I tell you, weird things happen to me all the time.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, yes. It's a friend of mine. Well, she's a friend of a friend. I've just gotten to know her. She's a retired LCBO manager, and she started doing dog sitting. So she moves into a house and she takes care of the pets, not always just dogs. And she had double booked herself. This was last fall. So a mutual friend said, well, why don't you ask Valerie? Because I do it for a friend of mine. So this woman called me and I said, yeah, I guess I could do that, take over this contract of hers for 2 weeks. Next thing you know, I'm doing it pretty much full time. So I just move into somebody's house and they're always beautiful houses. And I live in a condo, so I'm really happy to get out, when I have a yard and trees and so I really enjoy it. And I get to play with puppies, and then it's like being a grandma. I get to play with the puppies and spoil them and then see ya, I'm going home now. Yeah.
I'll have to keep that in mind when we take a vacation and don't have anybody for our puppy.
Yeah, well, I guess for a lot of people, they like to know the animals well taken care of in their own home.
Yes.
They don't have to go to a kennel. And also for insurance purposes, it's good to have somebody in your house. Right?
It really is. It really is. It makes a big difference. And it's interesting with our pets because our dogs or whatever, they can be like family members.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
You see them different than when I was living on a farm and we had a couple of dogs running around outside. I never even got to know them.
No, I know. Yeah. But now, they have stuffies and special food. And what's this whole thing with stuffies? When did that start? It's pretty crazy.
My dog is a husky German Shepherd mix.
Oh, nice.
And she's a year old and she's quite big, of course. And she's got a little tiny stuffy about this big. It's a little bunny rabbit.
Yeah.
She'll carry it around in her mouth.
Yeah.
I think maybe we give them stuffies because it gives us something to chuckle about.
Yeah. But they obviously like it. It's comforting. It's comforting to them. But I go into some houses and there's so many stuffies. They're all over the place and toys. And oh my God, this dog, the whole cupboard in the laundry room is full of treats.
Treats, yes.
Just bags and bags of treats. So,
well, you got to mix them up, give them different things at different times.
The other thing I like about doing this is it also gives me a chance to explore new neighborhoods. Where I am right now in Elora, I would not come here and just wander around the streets and look at all the trails here, because I don't live here. So, so I've gotten to know a lot of other communities.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah, because it is, we do live in a really remarkable part of the world.
Absolutely.
There's so many different, just so many different climates even right here in Canada. It's quite remarkable. I've lived in Vancouver, or not in Vancouver, but in Vernon, BC, valley there, and I've traveled a lot in British Columbia. Lived in Alberta for a zillion years. I was born and raised in Calgary, and now here. And I have a son in Nova Scotia, and we visited last year. And so when you go from place to place, you start to see this incredible difference in the vegetation, in the people. You go from Newfoundland to Vancouver and it's like night and day, and yet coastal cities, right? Country provinces. But it's fascinating to me when I look at how people are traveling all over. And we've noticed this year, fewer people traveling into the United States. Do you have any commentary on what's happening down there, or?
No. I grew up partly in North Carolina.
Did you?
I have family there, and I always love the Carolinas, and I love to go down to Florida every year, and take my kids. I have a couple of cousins, or 3 cousins that I just reconnected with a few years ago. And one of them, coincidentally, is a Unity member in Florida.
Oh,
Yeah, it was really weird. He
fascinating.
was at he'd posted on Facebook he'd been at Unity Village. I said, "Oh, what are you?" And it's, yeah, so he's a member of Unity there, Unity Clearwater. Yeah, building a new church. So that was weird. Unfortunately, his sister is a Trump supporter. And I was really at first looking forward to getting to meet her because I hadn't seen her since I was a young teenager. And it's really interesting. I have no answers because it says everything about her that I need to know. And I had no interest in getting to know anybody like that. So,
Isn't it? It's interesting the dilemma that causes, because I was at Unity Village 2 years ago, and I was speaking to one of the musicians who was working there, and she had just a great relationship with the roadie who was helping her move stuff in and out and do all this stuff. And then all of a sudden the Trump conversation came up, and he talked about being a Trump supporter, and she immediately went into the, how do I marry the two? I
yeah.
really like this human being. I cannot believe they would support Trump. Like, and there was and then she was collaborating with some musicians in Nashville, and, they were having this great collaboration, creating some great music. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, this conversation comes up again, and she finds out that they are big time Trump supporters. And so she's got this dilemma. Like, I really like these people. How is this possible? And it's that funny dichotomy where you're going, I don't know which way to turn.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's hard to put it together sometimes. I have a friend who is a Republican, and I'm not so sure a Trump supporter. I don't think so, but definitely a Republican. And they're trying to figure out how to be a Republican today.
Yeah, that would be difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because this is a trans person.
Yeah.
And so being a Republican today is like, so there's these ideas, and we don't feel that so strongly here, when it comes to whether you're a liberal or conservative or.
No. Yeah, we're not so partisan that way. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a really big difference. But I look at what's happening, just around North America with women. Of course, my main interest, women and children. And when I look at some of the rulings in the US, and a little bit concerned whether or not those would ripple their way up here. What are your thoughts about that? Do you think we have anything to be concerned of here in Canada?
No, I don't. I think, there might be some influences, but I think, Canadians are Canadians at heart. And I don't think anything's going to change for the most part.
Yeah.
The majority of people, I think we're always going to continue to be kind and peaceful. Whenever I travel anywhere, I always make sure people know I'm Canadian, not American. And it's, but the little story, this happened many years ago. I was in Israel, and we were in a market, and a guy says, "Don't tell me where you're from. I'm going to guess. And he was named, English, no, blah, 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 American, nope. And finally, he said, "Okay, I give up." And I said, "Canadian." "Oh, Canadians, very nice, but very cheap." Are we? Oh, okay. Well, if that's the worst you can say about a Canadian, I'm okay with it.
No kidding. Boy, I wouldn't have thought that, but maybe.
Yeah, maybe we are a little cheap.
Yeah, I know I'm pretty generous, but maybe to a fault. But it's like, I wouldn't have described us quite that way. I met a woman in New York City. We were standing in line at Starbucks, and we got chatting, and she asked where I was from, and I said, "Canada." She goes, "A province of England."
Yes, we're still the colonies, and I'm okay with calling it that because I think it's funny. Well, we are. So that's okay. I
It
don't
was pretty
mind that.
funny.
Yeah.
And I said, no, Canada is a country.
Oh, she was serious.
She
She
was
was
serious. No, she really
really.
thought, yeah, she
Oh,
thought
good God.
Canada was a province.
Unbelievable. No, that's the level of ignorance, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was going to school, I was in elementary school in North Carolina, and I remember, learning about geography and seeing the map. There was nothing north of the border. That was it. It was just white. You see, that's where I'm from, up there. No,
There's nothing there.
nothing
Yeah,
there. No, it's just all wilderness. So.
there's a lot there. A great big huge country.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting that the way history and things are taught. My daughter went to school with the Viamont School District, which is the French public school system here in Ontario.
Mhm.
And so she was schooled right through grade 12 in French education. And what's interesting is that in all her years, so from junior kindergarten all the way to grade 12, graduating in a school that was probably a lot of the teachers were from French Africa,
Mhm.
and some from Quebec, many from France. But there was a real diverse community here. This was not a white school by any
Mhm.
stretch,
Mhm.
and most of the teachers even. So it was interesting to see that in all the years she was in school, she never once had a person of color teach history.
Hmm. Yeah, that is interesting.
Isn't that
Hmm.
fascinating? And she was the one who brought it up.
Yeah.
She said that to me in grade 11. She said, I'm shocked, given the nature of the two schools that she went to, that
Mhm.
there was not a person of color teaching history.
Yeah. Mm. Mm.
But they did learn some pretty important things. And I was a little disturbed by a film they showed, but at the same time, well, I found the film disturbing, but it made sense. And the teacher showed them a film called Skin. It's a short that's on YouTube, and that was very, very disturbing film, and
Mm.
about the racial
Yeah.
challenges, but um, extreme, like
Mm.
real extreme, and not to diminish what's going on in the world or what's happening in the United States, but showing this film in school, I thought was, but they were grade 11, they were old
They were
enough
old enough. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah. Mm.
No, that's not the one.
Mm.
Um, Skin or Skins, possibly Deja. Deja's really good
Mm.
at going and
Yeah,
finding
she just finds these things so quickly.
she really does. She's
Yeah. And you know what
incredible.
else? Another movie and I saw this years and years ago. It was called Enemy Mine.
Mm,
I don't even know if it's still in any kind of circulation, and it's based on a planet where an alien and the two aliens, and one happens to be human, are the only ones in as they're stranded on this planet. And of course, they're enemies because they're so different. And then just everything that happens as their relationship evolves. And then
yeah.
they start seeing the similarities that they both have
Mm,
families. And it's really good. It's really, really good. It gave you a lot to think about.
absolutely. Well,
Mhm.
even I don't know if you've seen the TED Talk by jazz musician by the name of Daryl. Can't recall, but it's easy to find the video because he's a black man that attends KKK rallies.
Oh,
So that's easy to find online. And
yeah.
what he did, nope, not that one either.
Obviously, there's a lot of movies called Skin.
And yeah, and like I say, it might be Skins. I'm not sure. But what's interesting, the story of this man was quite remarkable in that he went and didn't realize anything about racism until he was about 9 years old. And then, some people were spitting on him and this and that because he was raised in a white community. And he was like, what's going on? And then his parents explained to him what it was. And he was really curious about it. So he read a lot of books and tried to understand. And like he would read things from the Nazi perspective, from the KKK perspective. He just wanted information. And then as an adult, he said to his secretary one day, I want you to call the Grand Master or whatever of the KKK in their region and invite him to come have a conversation with me. But whatever you do, don't tell him I'm Black. And so they met up and had a conversation. And this progressed. They agreed on some things, disagreed on other things. And they did this over the years. And he ended up having conversations with the big guy that's all over the US. And interestingly enough, was able to forge a friendship so strong with that gentleman that he left the KKK.
Yeah.
Gave him his beautiful robes as well. So he has those on stage with him when he talks about it. But there's, CNN did a story on him attending a KKK rally and then interviewed this man at Daryl Davis, I think might be his name, at his home. Actually, CNN was there to do a story on it because it's such a weird thing. But it shows that when we sit down and talk to each other, when we spend time with each other, we start to recognize less about the differences and more about the things we have in common.
I think it just shows that we're not nearly as evolved as we think we are.
It's true.
No, it is. I mean, we're tribal.
Yes.
We are safe within our own tribe, and we're afraid of other. That's all that is we're afraid of other because we don't understand it. Right?
That's exactly what he says in his TED Talk.
Yeah.
It's all about understanding. Yeah, there he is.
Yeah.
That's him with the burning cross in the back. It was fascinating that, I don't understand all of this, but I guess you're right. It's tribal. We're most comfortable where we know everybody, and
and that they look like us. They look like us too. Yeah.
My eldest daughter was in not Germany, somewhere close. Anyway, she was in Europe, and she said she got off the plane and went, everybody looks like me.
It's very white here.
But more than white, it was like, the shape of her face and the color of her hair. And it was like, these could all be my family. And I just chuckled. I said, yeah, we have, German and Welsh and Irish genes in us. So yeah, I definitely could. But yeah, she was really just blown away that it was, because she's traveled quite a few places in Europe, and this one place, it was like, wow, this looks like home.
Well, that's why I find it really interesting. When I was traveling in Uganda, and so many places that we go to, they'd never seen a white person, especially the kids. And more than once, I'd be walking along and some little kid is playing in the dirt, and all of a sudden looks at me and goes, ah, and starts screaming and running. They think that we are either ghosts or that we've been peeled somehow. They want to touch our skin because they think that this is what they look like underneath. They can't believe that this is skin. Yeah. And it's a very strange feeling to be a white person in a sea of Africans, because, everybody's, and then of course they call us Mzungus, which is just white person. It's not an insult. It just means white person, but it really irritates me. I don't mind when the kids do it, but if an adult does it, I usually tell them what for. I'm not don't you call me a Mzungu.
Yeah.
I know I'm white. You don't have to tell me.
Yeah.
And,
I think that's fascinating, because it's I know when I was in Africa, and of course I was in a group of people from the United States and from Europe and stuff. We were all there for conference, and I think that because there was a whole group of us, that we didn't really run into that too much.
Yeah.
But we were in a big city as well, which is a big difference than the village. But it was interesting just to how some people would kind of stare at us, and but I didn't have anybody wanting to touch me. But I have a girlfriend she went to a home in Quebec when she was in high school. I guess they did a student exchange, and this family had never seen a Black person. And one of the children kept wiping her hand, trying to clean it.
Yeah, same thing.
Get it wiped. Same thing whatsoever. Wow, that's fascinating. So when do you plan to go back?
Well, I'm hoping next year. I'm going to connect with a high school. Now that school is underway here. I'm hoping to find a high school in Waterloo Region that would be willing to take on a fundraising project. We figure we need maybe about $30,000 to build this high school.
Yeah.
Another organization in the States has already raised money to purchase the land, so they own the land. And another organization I know that built a school, they're willing to give us the blueprints, so we don't have to pay for that. It's a very simple structure, just 2 stories, about 10 classrooms. So once we have enough money to start building, then that's when I want to be there when they start building. I like that.
Of course. Yeah. Breaking ground would be so incredible. Wow.
Yeah, because they do everything by hand. Pickaxes and shovels. Yeah. No heavy equipment. Doesn't matter how big it is that they're building, everything is done by hand. Wow. Yeah, I know it's really amazing. But,
wow.
Yeah.
Now, did you come across any businesses while you were there that were women run?
Oh yeah. Yep. So there is an organization, and actually when we were supporting the high school, the woman that owned that school, she was part of a women's collective, and they would pool their money, and they, you've heard of microfinancing.
Yes.
Yeah. So a woman would come up with an idea for a small business, usually a little hut the side of the road, and she's going to do hairdressing or sell some items. And then they would come to this group, and she would be given a small loan, and then she would have to pay back so much every month until it was fully paid off. Yeah. So that microfinancing has been really, really successful, and it's supported a lot of women, because when the men work, they tend to keep the money for themselves. There's a big disconnect there in the families. A lot of the men are, they'll have several children with several different women, and they just and it's the women that stay home and raise the kids and take care of them. But that's the kind of mindset that we can't change. That we cannot comment on that. It's none of our business. We just have to deal with the women that, if they can use our help. When we put in the sewing room, the point of that was a lot of the young women that didn't have any opportunities. We let them get trained in the sewing room, and then they could get their own little sewing machine and set up a little business on just on the side of the road or in front of their hut, earning some money for their family. So it's something very simple.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I came across a couple of organizations that were women founded and run in Kenya, which also rare, because the men were the ones who went out and worked and kept all their money. But one of them was a woman who started taking flip-flops, and they would take the strands off that hold it on your foot, and they take just the bottom, clean it all up, and then repurpose it into elephants and giraffes and furniture and you name it. And they'd be all these multicolored, and they would pay people to bring them whatever they found on the beach or on the roadway or whatever. And they would repurpose all this stuff. So they were giving jobs to a number of people, men and women, but it was a woman who founded the company and who runs the company.
Yeah.
And the taxi service that we used was also owned by a woman and run by a woman. And so one of the people who was traveling with us asked one of the men, like, how do you like working for a woman? And he goes, I don't work for a woman. we're in partnership.
Yeah, good.
And I thought, well, isn't she smart? She knows.
Yeah, she knows how to deal with them. Absolutely.
She knows what she needs to do, and what she needs to do is create something where the men can still be men.
Right.
They don't feel less than or whatever. So that was interesting. And then they would drive for her, but they would also drive for Uber or whatever as well. Like they would do other things as well to boost their income. But the main thing was working for her. And whenever anyone goes over there for CSL Kenya, she was always the one we would contact.
Yeah.
To get rides. But yeah, it's fascinating being in a different country and learning new things. And man, they like spinach.
I don't think I ever had spinach in Uganda. The food tends to be very bland. Yeah.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There was spinach on the side.
Oh, I'd be okay with that. I like spinach.
Yeah, but I never liked it cooked until I ate it in Kenya.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they did to it, but anyway, it tasted fabulous. Well, we're down to our last 4.5 minutes.
Okay.
And so I would like you to share, whatever you think is probably the best thing to share from your life and for this moment as we close off this. What can people take away? Sure.
I would say my main advice would be don't overthink everything. Just do it. I mean, I'm constantly just leaping and then wondering if there's any place to actually land. And I always land. It's about, and that's one thing I love about Unity is because I've always thought this way. My life has always gone this way. And then I discovered Unity, which teaches that way. And it's absolutely true.
It is absolutely true.
Yeah, I have a friend and she just overthinks everything, every little thing that's happening. So what about this and what about that? And then I don't know. I'm all fed up. I don't think stop, take a breath.
Think less.
Yeah. Yes. Think less, act more. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's like a phrase we have in CSL, which is similar in Unity as well, which is treat and move your feet, or pray and move your feet, right?
Yeah.
It's like, there's got to be some action involved in life. You can't just sit there wishing and hoping and dreaming and wanting.
No.
You actually have to sort of go, now what? And then step into it.
Yeah.
But I like that. I like that a lot. I moved to Toronto with $40 in my pocket and a dream.
Well, there you go.
A one-way plane ticket.
Now you've got a grand piano. Look at that. Is that your background? Is that your house in the background?
No.
Oh. All right, well, we won't tell the viewers that. Now you have a grand piano. Isn't that lovely?
Isn't that lovely that I have that grand piano?
You're so lucky.
Isn't that beautiful? It's really funny because, when I sat back and put that background up there, it was because
that's the real thing there?
There's the real thing. There's my office. Yeah, I'm in my office. Yeah, no, I put it up sometimes because, occasionally, my desk hasn't been cleared off and I just have a pile of stuff around.
Yeah.
So I turn around and put a fake background up. But Valerie, this has been a real privilege to sit and talk with you today. I'm really grateful that you agreed to come on the show, and I'm so excited about everything you're doing. I'm going to Kenya in 2027. Not sure when you'll go to Uganda, but if anything aligns, maybe I make a hop.
Yeah, that would be great.
Uganda. To see what's happening there, because that would be, oh my God.
Well, you would love the community. As soon as we come up the driveway in the van, all the kids are lined up because they know when we're coming, and they all start singing. The minute we turn the corner, then they're all lined up. There's 500 or 600 of them all standing up there and singing to welcome us. And then when the doors open, I'm totally swamped. So yeah.
Oh, don't you love it?
Pretty joyous. Yeah.
Pure joy. Pure absolute joy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Truly a gift to our world as well as to the Waterloo region.
Thank you.
Well, everybody, you've been watching The Joy Show today. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I look forward to seeing you again next time. And by the way, like, share, and subscribe. Let a friend know. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm Barbara Jean, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network, come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.